Votes will be counted Tuesday night for citywide elections across Iowa. School board races, city council races, and mayoral races among them. We paid a lot of attention to the race for Davenport mayor specifically. Jason Gordon and Judith Lee were the top two vote getters in the primary to move on to the general election and a chance to lead Iowa's third largest city. You see their vote tallies on the screen there. Only 92 votes separated them in the primary. We invited Jason Gordon and Judith Lee back to the program to get more perspective on their positions before Election Day. As you can see, they graciously accepted. Now here is the format for this morning. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. You are not obligated to use all that time. I will give a 10-second warning by raising my hand and ring this bell when the time expires. After that, the first candidate has the option for a 30-second rebuttal. If the candidate exercises that option, the other candidate will also have 30 seconds to speak. If the option isn't taken, we will move on to the next question. So both of you served Davenport as city council members in the past. Being mayor pays $45,000 a year. Why do you want to get back into city government? Jason Gordon, you first.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. I want to get back into city government because I think I can make a difference. Again, I did serve previously from 2010 to 17 as alderman at large. I've talked to a lot of folks knocking on doors over the last few months, and that obviously is a council that's viewed pretty favorably as a high-functioning, civil, productive council. We've been lacking that for the last couple of few years, in my opinion, and I'm willing to step back into the arena as mayor and try and bring some of that back to council. Collaboration, working productively with one another. Again, doesn't mean we always agree. But we can disagree. We can be agreeable even when we do disagree on the issues.
Judith Lee, why do you want to rejoin city government as mayor this time?
Because I have been involved for the last 6 years. These years are very different from the previous 8 to 15 years. Many different things have gone on, and you have to pay attention. I have been involved for 6 years. I know what the issues are. I know who the people are. I have worked with people in other governments. I am ready to lead Davenport, partnering with a new city administrator and a new council to make this city everything that it can be. There are things that we have to repair, and I'm ready to do that, but we have to do it together. And I believe that the last council has been fine, and as Gordon said, Gordon said they weren't the smartest people in the room, and I believe they are. They just need the information so that they can make informed decisions. That's the key. And I'm prepared to help lead council to be the leaders, the decision makers that they are, and be the liaison between the new city administrator, who is right now on for 6 months, but is interested in staying, and the city council, as well as city staff, to make this city a thriving, vibrant city that we deserve.
Jason Gordon, do you want to use your option for a 30-second rebuttal here?
No, I think we're good.
All right, let's move on. Both of you indicated during this campaign the people of Davenport need to be able to trust the city government. There is the argument some or a lot of trust was lost after the downtown building collapse, as well as the separation agreements with 3 former city employees. It's one thing to say you will work to restore that trust. It's another to actually do it. What would you do to try to restore it? Judith Lee.
I was there. You can't say that I learned about it from the newspaper. I was there, I was involved. When I was allowed to be, I was also excluded inappropriately through some of this. However, we are in violation of open meeting laws with some of the actions we're doing now. We have not been open. The collapse of 324 Main Street, actually what it did was it brought some things to the surface that had been ongoing. And now we know. What I am going to do is empower council, get them trained so that they know that they are the decision makers of the city. Me, as the CEO of the city, will help cooperate and collaborate with the new city administrator and the directors who work for the new city administrator to make sure that information is talked about and deliberated by this council long before it comes to the agenda. Right now, the agenda shows up on the website at 5 o'clock on a Friday. And then the meeting is Wednesday. That is absolutely no time to get the detailed information that you need, because a lot of the information is not available on the agenda. We need to go back and open up to the chair and vice chair working publicly with staff, with the city administrator, and with the mayor, me, to start deliberating these issues early and as often as needed.
Judith Lee, you've used up your time here. Jason Gordon, what would you do to try to restore trust in Davenport city government?
Well, I would just fall on my record, rely on my record. I have a record of being a trusted partner, both as an alderman, as a vice president of public affairs for the Quad Cities Chamber, advocating on behalf of our business interest, as a congressional staffer for 8 years. I just tell people, trust is kind of a gut type of reaction type of thing. I just tell people to find someone they know, a neighbor, a member of their church, a member of their bridge club, someone they work with. They'll know Jason Gordon. Someone will know Jason Gordon. Ask them what they think about me, and I think they're going to tell you he's trustworthy. And on this topic of trust, I think it's important to point out that my opponent was indeed involved with the separation of the former city administrator. She was in the room on October 4th. In closed session, and the only reason, the main reason we know she was in the room was because the judge reviewed the audio of that closed session recording and ruled that everyone that was present at the closed session was assented to or agreed to moving forward with those separation agreements with those former city employers. And then finally, he also ruled that the action that they took in December, 2 months later, to approve those agreements was actually a ratification of decisions that had already been made, not approvals. So, I'm the only candidate up on stage that was not at all a part of those separation agreements with the former employees, and I wouldn't have done it if I were mayor of Davenport.
Judith Lee, would you like to use the option for a 30-second rebuttal there? All right, quickly, 30 seconds.
Thank you. First of all, he was involved in the dock, where yesterday he said that it was a zoning decision. It was not. It was a decision to enter into an agreement with a developer that he pushed that ultimately went to prison for 6 years for federal fraud. He pushed that project. He also said that it's not by code, the mayor is not a full-time job.
Judith Lee, I got to move on. Jason Gordon, we're trying to keep it tight on time here. Your
Sure,
response.
I would just say the dock project, even though it showed some dissension at the time between the mayor and the entire city council was for it, the mayor was opposed to it. What ultimately happened was the timeline for that individual to have that project underway, that came and went. He wanted an extension, and the entire council said no, and we didn't spend a dime on incentives for that project.
All right, we'll move on. Restoring that trust, though, means both of you must be above reproach personally and any conflict of interest. Jason Gordon, you once worked for a high-profile construction company that gets some big government contracts in the Quad Cities. Judith Lee, you're an environmental consultant with relationships in your industry of companies that have their own interests in government projects. How can you ensure the people of Davenport, your professional connections, won't get favorable treatment from you as mayor? Jason Gordon.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And the issue of conflict is one that's put on the elected official, and the elected official has to be, it's their responsibility. They have to own that perception, I would say, not just the actual conflict, but the perception of it. And if there's even a perception of it, I think the elected official is obligated to identify it and physically remove themselves from any discussions that involve whatever the perceived conflict issue is. But I also am not afraid to embrace the relationships I have across a whole spectrum of industries and businesses. I think it's going to be good for Davenport for someone to have those connections. I'm going to use those connections to advocate for the best outcome for property tax reform in Des Moines if I'm elected mayor. We're going to need relationships, strong relationships in the capital to make sure that cities don't get left behind in that conversation when the state considers property tax reform. So it's very important to be certainly above reproach, but I also embrace the relationships I have. I think it will position Davenport to be a stronger, better city.
Judith Lee, how can you ensure the people of Davenport, your professional connections, won't get favorable treatment from you as mayor?
My work has been nationwide, from Washington, D.C. to Alaska to California. I do not work here. The only job I had as a consultant to a local consultant, I abstained on a decision. I don't have any conflicts of interest here. He works for Valley Construction. He worked for Valley Construction. He works for Terracon. Both of those are city contractors, big ones. He's been involved with the Chamber of Commerce. They are very influential with the city. It's going to be very difficult for someone with those kinds of strong and currently active relationships to not have some level or perception of conflict of interest. I have none.
Jason, Gordon, care to open this up for a rebuttal?
I don't think so.
All right, we'll move on. Well, we are just getting started. More to come from our conversations with Davenport mayoral candidates Jason Gordon and Judith Lee in a special edition of For the Record. We'll be right back.